Are there biblical standards of good government? To answer this question, we need to distinguish between two types of action: individual action and collective action. There are basically two ways to accomplish any task: by oneself, by way of individual action, or by collective action, with two or more people. And there are two ways collective action can be used: voluntarily or compulsory. Examples of voluntary collective action include homeowners associations, churches, civic groups, and farm cooperatives, to list a few. An example of non-voluntary or compulsory collective action is government. All government activity is collective activity, and because the nature of government is force, it is always compulsory. Based on this, what guidelines, what standards does Scripture provide to help us determine the proper and improper role of government? The important principle here is that biblical prohibitions and commandments relating to human behavior apply equally to all individuals, regardless of whether they are acting individually or collectively. Once this principle is understood, we discover that we have plenty of biblical guidelines for good government. This principle, that biblical prohibitions and commandments relating to human behavior apply equally to all individuals, regardless of whether they are acting individually or collectively, is very important. So do not accept it without some serious thought. Most Americans have been taught a double standard regarding government activity. We are led to believe that government and government officials are somehow exempt from absolute standards of right and wrong. We have been taught that once elected or appointed to public office, the individual is no longer subject to the moral standards that limited them as an individual. Is there a way to justify that once elected or appointed, an individual who is now part of the government structure or system can do things they could not do as an individual? Well, the Bible clearly prohibits physically assaulting an innocent person. Christians and non-Christians agree this to be wrong. This obviously applies to people individually, but does it apply to people collectively? Can we get around this prohibition, this law, by forming a group and using collective action to physically assault an innocent person? The obvious answer is no. It should be clear that there is no loophole for collective activity. Biblical prohibitions apply equally to both individual activity and collective activity. These same prohibitions apply to the largest collective, which is government. Apply this reasoning to each of the 10 commandments, and you will find that the commandments apply to collective activity just as they do to individual activity. Unless clearly specified to the contrary, biblical prohibitions apply equally to both individual and collective action.